Welcome back everyone. I hope you all are doing great. In this video, we will be creating a full stack project. Now, let me give you a quick overview of the technologies we will be using, what we will be building, and the prerequisite. For the front end, we will use React, Vite, and Tailwind. On the back end, we will utilize Node.js and Express. For the database, we will use SQL and host it on AWS RDS. We will also integrate the Stripe payment gateway and use Vimeo services to fetch videos for the users who have purchased the course. Now, for the fun part, let's look at what we are going to build. This is going to be a course selling website. The first page will have this beautiful landing page with a transparent navigation bar, which you can see over here. And then when we scroll down, we are going to have what is Few Learns section. Here we are going to have this 4 cards, and when we hover over it, it is going to have this beautiful transition. And then you again scroll down, you are going to have this testimonials section. And at last we will have this footer section. Next, we are going to have a blog section which is going to be supported by Markdown. So if you noticed, when I clicked over this blogs, it showed me an alert message which said please register to access the blogs. So this means that when a new user is coming to our website, we are going to ask them to register to our website so that they can access to the blogs section. So let's click on OK, and this is going to take us to this register form. Let's register our account. First, we are going to have this username. For the email, I'm also going to use the same email, and for the password, put whatever that you want to use. And then let's click on this register, and it says registration successful. And when I will click on this OK, it is going to take us to this login page. So basically, once you have registered your account, you also have to log in to our website. So let's provide the username and the password we gave for our username, just like this. And let's click on login. And once we are logged in, we will see the blog section where all the blogs are going to be listed with text indicating the technologies discussed. And when we click on a particular blog link, it will navigate us to that blog. So when we scroll down, you are going to see this blog is fully supported by Markdown. Alright, next we are going to have this course section displaying images for each course, a heading, and then we are going to have this course detail button, the course price, and a checkbox to select the course. So when you click on this particular course detail, it is going to show you what that course is going to cover, who is going to be the instructor, and what are going to be the prerequisite. Alright, and this is going to be dynamic. This is going to be different for different course. Alright, now let's select the courses that we are going to buy. So let's select this one course and this course. You can select any course that you want to buy. Alright, and then we will click on this proceed to payment button. Now this is important. When you click on this proceed to payment button, this is going to take us to this Stripe payment gateway. So let's provide the email, and then we are going to have the card information. For the testing purpose, we are going to have a series of 4-2. Because we are just testing, so we are going to have this series of photo to test this. Provide the month and an year, provide the CVC, then you are going to provide the card holder's name. Over here you can see that we are buying these 2 courses, Learn About Kafka and Node.js, Kubernetes and Docker for deployment. And here you can see that we are in test mode. So once your application is done and ready, you can change the mode. Alright, then we will click on this pay button, and you can see it is processing. The payment is completed, and it took us to this success page which says purchase successful. And then you are going to have this button which says go to your courses. And if you noticed, our navigation links also changes, and it gave us this my course button. So let's click on go to your courses, and here you are going to have your purchased courses. These are the 2 courses that you bought, right? And then when we click on our particular course, it is going to take you to that course page, and here you are going to publish the video for it on Vimeo. Alright, and then when we scroll down, here we are going to have this beautiful section which is going to show the description, the syllabus, instructor's bio, and the testimonials. This page will only be accessible to the users who have purchased the course, okay? And now as for error handling, what if users mistakenly tries to buy a course that they have already purchased? No worries. We have added a functionality that is going to alert the user and stop them from proceeding to the payment page. Let's test that also. When we click on this courses pages and try to buy this course that we have already purchased and click on proceed to payment gateway, you can see this shows us an alert message that says you have already purchased the course with ID or IDs. And just to show you, when we go into the console, you can see this says failed to load the resources. The server responded with the status of 400 and you can see that payment failed because we have already purchased this course. And that is how our application is going to prevent the user from rebuying the courses, okay? And then we are going to have this meet team section, which is going to show our dedicated team, all right? Then you are also going to have logout button. Once you have logged in, this navigation link will get converted to logout. So when we click on logout, it is going to show an alert that says, are you sure that you want to log out? So when you click on OK, it is going to say you have been logged out. And then when you try to access my courses page, it is not going to show you because then you have to log in again. All right. And when you log back in, you are going to have this My Courses button and you can see your courses. It is stored in our database, okay? Now that we have gone through the quick demo, let me give you a high-level overview of the architecture for our full stack project. So I have prepared this diagram and I hope this helps you understand the architecture of our application. User is going to visit to the website to interact with our application, and when they submit the form like logging in or registering, or if they try to purchase a course, these actions will send the HTTP request to our backend. The Node.js backend that we have will receive these messages or request, you can say, from our front end, and inside the backend we are going to have several controllers, and our controllers will handle various tasks such as authentication, video retrieval, payment processing. Some controllers will fetch or store information like username, password, and user purchased courses from our database, while other controllers will interact with the external services like Vimeo for videos and Stripe for payment gateway. Then we are going to have MySQL database, which we are going to host on AWS RDS, which is going to store all the essential data, including users detail like their username, password, and email. And it is also going to store the courses and purchase records for the users that have purchased the courses. The controller that we have in the backend will frequently access our database to fetch or store the data based on whatever request our front end is making. And we are also going to utilize the third-party services like Vimeo API and Stripe API. And when our backend needs a specific service such as processing a payment gateway or fetching a video, it will send requests to these third-party API services. Vimeo is going to return the requested video, while Stripe will handle the financial transaction. And now that we have covered the architecture overview, let's start building our application. And to simplify this process, we will begin by building the entire front end first. Then we are going to set up the database. Then we are going to move on and create backend. Now, before we move ahead, let's talk about the prerequisite. You should have Node.js, NPM, and MySQL Workbench installed on your local machine. Additionally, you will also need an AWS account with necessary permission to create a database using RDS. And just to clarify, the AWS database that we will create is going to be within the free tier limit. So there's no need to worry about the cost, okay? However, if you prefer not to use AWS RDS, that is perfectly fine. You can use any other service that you you are familiar with. Let's go ahead and create our project structure. So for the front end structure, we are going to follow this documentation which is present on tailwindcss.com/docs, guides, and then we. You just have to copy and paste all of these commands into your project structure, and instead of my project, you are going to say client or front end, whatever you prefer.
A few moments later.
And here you can see our client folder is ready. I have just followed the steps which are described over here, and you're going to have this same folder structure as mine if you do the same. And at last we will start our application by running the command npm run dev, and it is going to start on the port 5174. Basically its default localhost is 5173, but because for the demo purpose our application is already running on 5173, it started on 5174. So let's click on this, and you can see our basic application ready over here. So like that is what we have for this client folder. Then we are going to create another folder which is going to be the server side, and let's open another terminal over here, navigate to the server folder, and here we are going to run the command npm init-y to initialize a server as a Node.js application. Perfect. It has generated package.json file. Now we are going to create all of the files that we need into our client folder. So here I am going to create all of the folders and the files that we need. I have included a link to the entire project's GitHub repository below in the description. So if you get confused at any point, you can refer to that repository or its documentation for the folder structure or the links which we are going to talk about in this video. And the link for my website is also given in the description, which is vue.dev.
12 seconds later.
So here I have brought in all of the images that we are going to need for our website. Then in the blogs we are going to have the empty files, but for now it is just the empty folder. Then we have this components folder inside which we have different folders: auth, blog, common, and courses. In auth we have this particular files, in blogs we have this two files, for common we have footer and navigation, and for courses we have these different files. And in the source directory we have this homepage.jsx file and team file. Alright, this is the folder structure, and once you have all of these files ready into your client folder, we are going to start building our application. And for the images, I have provided these images into the GitHub repository. You can check it over there, download it from there, or you can use any of the images that you want. Now let's create a navigation bar. But before doing that, let's just clear this app.jsx file. This is our blank application as of now. Here in this navigation.jsx file, we are going to build a responsive navigation bar and of course mobile friendly menu. First, we are going to import all of the essential library and components. We have React for building the component, use context for accessing our authentication context, use state for managing the state, and use navigation from React Router DOM for handling the navigation. We also bring in these icons from React Icons library for cool, hamburger, and close icons in mobile menu. Next, we also bring in the auth context, which is going to be important for determining if the user is authenticated and if they have purchased any courses. We are going to use this to conditionally render the parts of our navigation menu. And then when we are going to move on to our navigation component. So in here we start by destructuring is authenticated and has purchased courses and log out from our auth context file. And this is going to help us customize the navigation bar based on the user authentication status. We also use the use state to manage whether the mobile menu is open or closed. This is going to be controlled by is open state, which we will toggle when the user clicks the menu button. Then we have this on logout function, which is going to be responsible for logging the user out when they click on the on logout button. We are going to ask them for confirmation before logging them out and navigate them back to the login page afterward. Then we have another function which is toggle menu to toggle the mobile menu on and off. And now we are going to look at how our navigation bar is rendered. So we wrap the entire component into the nav element and we apply some styling like the blurred background and its fixed position at the top. Here first on the left side we are going to have the logo. Perfect. Then we are going to have some links which is going to be home, blog, courses and meet team. And if the user is authenticated and have purchased the course, we are going to show them the link my courses. And if they are logged in, basically if they are authenticated, the login button will change to logout. Okay. And if they are authenticated, we are going to show them the logout button also. And if user is not authenticated, we are going to show them these two links, which is register and login. And for the mobile users, we are going to have a hamburger menu that is going to toggle the display of the menu items. When click, it is going to switch between open and close icons and show or hide the menu. And finally, when the mobile menu is going to be open, we are going to render a vertical list of the same navigation item. So like we are going to show them the home, courses and meet team links. And if user is authenticated, the links will dynamically change. And if they have purchased the courses, we are also going to show them my courses button and also the logout. But if they are not logged in, we have the same functionality as we had above. We are going to show them register and login page. So that is what we have for our navigation.jsx file. Of course, this navigation is not going to show up over here because we have to import it into our app.jsx file also. And now before we move ahead, let's first install all of the dependencies that we are going to need for our front-end part. So for it, let's open the terminal and over here we are going to run the command npm install. We are going to need Axios, GitHub Markdown CSS, Gray Matter, Highlight.js, Markdown.it, React Icons, React Markdown, React Router DOM, React Syntax Highlighter, and these two, RehypeRaw and Remark GFM. So these are all of the dependencies that we are going to need to work with front-end part. Now we have to install the dev dependencies that we need. And this is the dev dependencies that we need. npm install -d with -plugin -markdown. So let's click enter and let it install the dev dependencies also. After you have installed the dependencies and dev dependencies and have created the navigation component, you are going to head over to the app.css file, select all of these CSS because we do not need it and just remove it. And in the CSS file, we will first bring in the font that we are going to use. And if you want to change the font and you do not want to use the font Roboto, you can do it by visiting to the Google Fonts website and bringing in the font that you want to use. And then we are going to customize our body tag. We are going to give its background color, font family, sizing, font style, color and margin. And after this is done, let's save this file. And before we move on with importing the navigation component into app.jsx file, we will first work with auth-context.jsx file because this is the file which is going to handle the authentication and user management in our application. And if you remember, our navigation uses this auth context to display the navigation links, right? So first we will create this auth context, then we will import it into the app.jsx file. And to start off with, as always, we are going to import React and necessary hooks along with Axios for making HTTP request. And then we are going to create an auth context using create context and define the auth provider component. This component is going to manage the authentication state and it is going to provide it to the rest of our application. Our auth provider component is going to use useState to keep track of whether the user is authenticated and whether they have purchased any courses. And in this component, we are going to use the useEffect hook to check if a token exists in the local storage. If it does, we are going to set the user as authenticated and call check purchased courses to see if the user have purchased any courses. Then we will define the check purchased courses function, which is going to make a GET request to our server to fetch the list of purchased courses. And based on the response that we get from the server, we are going to update the state to reflect that whether the user has purchased any of our courses. We are also going to declare login and logout function. The login function is going to set the user as authenticated and check for purchased courses if the token is present. And the logout function is going to clear the authentication state and remove the token from the local storage. And once it has removed the token from the storage, the user cannot get access to their purchased courses, so they have to log back in again. And then we will have this auth provider component, which is going to wrap its children with the auth context.provider, which is going to make authentication state and functions available through our full app. So basically, this is what we are going to have for auth context.jsx file. So let's save this file and now open the app.jsx file. And as always, in the app.jsx file, we start by importing React, useState, useEffect from React. Browser route, routes and route are imported from the React Router DOM. And then we also import our navigation component. And then we import auth provider to provide the authentication. And at last, we import the app.css file. Then we are going to declare our functional app component. Then we have the state management inside our application component. So is authenticated state is created using the useState to track if the user is authenticated. Then we use useEffect to check for a token in the local storage, and if the token is found, is authenticated will be set to true. Then we are going to have two event handlers. The first one is handle login, which is going to set is authenticated function to true. Then we have handle logout, which is going to remove the token from the local storage, and it is going to set is authenticated to false. And at last, we render our component and we wrap it inside the auth provider to provide authentication context for our entire application. And inside the div here we have our navigation component. And at last we export our application as the default. And now when we save the file, you will see the navigation component over here. Let's refresh it and you see it over here. We have this beautiful hamburger menu. When we click on this, it is going to open our navigation. You can see home, courses, meet, team and logout button as for now. And when you click on this cross, it is going to close our navigation. And this is for the mobile devices, but for the big screens, you are going to have navigation like this. Next up, we are going to create our home page. And in the home.jsx file, we start by importing several libraries, and we import link from React Router DOM for navigation links. And then we also bring in several images assets for the background and testimonials section. Then we are going to declare a testimonials array, which is going to contain object that will represent the individual testimonials. And each testimonial object is going to have several properties such as ID, text, author, title and image URL, and the image URL is going to be the path to that testimonial image. So like for the testimonials array, we are going to have 4 objects just like this. Okay, then we are going to declare our main page component over here, and in the return statement we are going to have JSX for the different section on our main page. So the first one is welcome page. And so like when I save it, you are not going to see it over here because we did not have imported into the app.jsx file. So let's first import our home page into the app.jsx file. So here below the navigation, let's import our home page just like this. And then scroll down, and below this navigation we are going to bring in our routes. And after we have bring in our routes, we are going to bring a specific route which is going to be for home page. And when we click on save, hopefully we can see our main page, which is welcome section. All right, so basically this is the link. We have that over here, read blogs. Then we have this H1 heading, which is welcome to Few Learns. Then we have this paragraph over here. We are incredibly excited, this one paragraph. And then down over here, we are going to have 2 buttons or a link, which is for the read blogs and buy courses, this one. All right. And then we have this image which is going to take us to the courses page when clicked on. So that is what we have for our first welcome page section. Now we have to create another section, that is what is Few Learns. So here is what is Few Learns section. So basically these are just several div over here to design it. Then we have what is Few Learns heading. We have a paragraph over here. Let's just save it and see what it gives us. And there we have this. And then below we have like this 4 divs over here, like what is Few Learns to describe it, 1, 2, 3 and 4. Okay, this is 1, 2, 3 and 4. This is what we have for what is Few Learns section. Now we are going to create our testimonials section. Scroll down and over here let's add a comment which is going to say testimonials. So here we have this testimonials heading. Here we have the heading 2. Here's what our students have to say. Paragraph to describe this, and in the testimonial section we have included the grid layout which is going to showcase the reviews from some of our students who have taken the courses. So basically what we are doing over here is we are mapping through our testimonials array and displaying the testimonials. We are showing their text, we are showing their image URL, who is the author and the title. And like instead of putting an author over here, you can have it something like testimonial. Okay. And now when I save the file, we are going to have this testimonials section over here with 4 different divs for our different testimonials. Alright. And that is what we are going to have for our home page. Next, we are going to create our footer. So let's open the footer.jsx file which is present into this common folder. And in here we start by importing React and link from React Router DOM, and then we create our functional footer component. Inside the footer we are going to have an unordered list containing several links such as home. We are going to have a link for courses, for blogs, for team, and for privacy and terms and condition. And for each link, if you notice, we use the to prop to navigate the user to that particular page. Next, we are going to have a series of link tags which is going to contain an SVG icons for our social media accounts. And over here you can redirect the user to your social media accounts. Like if you have Instagram account, provide the link to it over here. And finally, at last, we have to include a copyright notice at the bottom of the footer. Now over here, when we save the file, you are going to see the footer. But one thing I forgot, we have to import this footer into the app.jsx file also. So let's bring in over here, import footer from here. Okay. And then when we scroll down outside the routes, we are going to bring in our footer component. Just like this. Okay, and let's now save the file. And yes, here we have our footer over here. For the mobile it would look something like this, and when on the big screen it is going to look like this. That is what we have for our main page. And now we will bring in the radial gradient that we had for our first page. So in the app.css file, we are going to have 2 custom styles. That is one bg-style, which is going to give the background as radial gradient for our first welcome to Few Learns page. Then we also blur it by the 10 pixel. We have box shadow, width and height. And then we have this container class which sets the max width of any div which is going to have the container class to 64 rem and padding to 0 and 2 rem. Okay, and let's now save the file, and you will see that radial gradient appears over here. We are going to now work with blog section. So for working with blogs, let's open the blogs folder which is present into the components folder over here, and open this blog list.jsx file. Alright, and in the blog list file we are going to build a simple blog listing page. This component will dynamically display our list of blogs, complete with titles, description and tags, making it easy for our users to navigate through our content. In the blog.jsx file, we start by importing React useState useEffect from React. We also bring in the link from React Router DOM. Then we create our functional component, that is blog list, and then we initialize an empty array called blocks using the useState hook. This array will hold the list of all the blocks that we will display on the page, and then in the useEffect hook we declare data in the form of array for our blog files. For now we are hard coding these values, but you can even fetch this data from an API. And the blog files array contains blog data. Each blog object includes an ID, title, description, and the list of tags. And then in the return statement, we are going to bring in our JSX. First, we are going to display our blog's heading. We are going to have a paragraph read our latest blog, and inside an unordered list, we are mapping over our blog's array for every blog. So this is the key part over here, which is the map function. We loop through our blog's array and we generate a list items for each blog. For every blog, we are going to show its title, which is going to be clickable, and it is going to link to the blog's detail page. Then we have the tags, which will be displayed as a small badges next to the title. And then we bring in the description, which is going to give users a brief overview of the content of that particular blog. So like that is what we are going to have for the bloglist.jsx file. So let's now save this file, and we are going to import this into the app.jsx file. So over here below the footer, let's bring in our blog list, and then down below the home page we are going to bring a new route for our blogs. So over here what we have done is we have wrapped our blog list component inside the private route component, so only users, those who are authenticated, will be able to see our blog page. But for now we have not created the private route component yet, so we will just bring in the blog list as for now. And let's now save the file, and you will see the list of the blogs that are available on our website over here. And when you click on a particular blog, it is going to take you to that particular blog URL. Okay, and now we have to build a dynamic blog post page that is going to load the content from our markdown files, which we will create after this. This is going to be a great way to create the blog system where you can manage your post easily with the help of Markdown. For it, let's open the blog.jsx file present into our blog folder. In this file, we start by importing the packages and libraries such as React use params, React Markdown, React GFM, and Rehype Raw. Then down over here we create our functional component that is going to be the blog, and inside it we start by using the use params from React Router DOM to capture the block ID parameter from the URL. This block ID will help us identify which specific blog post to load. So for example, if the URL is /blog/generate-jwt, the block ID would be generate-jwt, okay? And below it, we set up two pieces of state, which is content, which will hold the HTML content for our blog post, and attributes, which will store metadata like the title and the description. Initially, these are going to be empty, but they will be populated once we have our markdown files ready. These two variables are going to ensure that our component updates whenever the block ID changes. So like these two variables are going to ensure that our component updates whenever the block ID is changed. Next, we are going to have the useEffect hook to load the markdown content whenever the block ID changes. Inside this hook, we define an asynchronous function, load markdown, which dynamically imports the correct markdown file based on the block ID. We are using a dynamic import statement over here, which is going to be a great way to lazy load content in Markdown. And if our file is successfully fetched, we are going to update our content and attribute states. But if something goes wrong, we catch the error and log it to the console. And finally, down over here, we are going to render our content. At top, basically, we display the title for our blog and then the description, which we are going to pull from the attributes object. And this is where our markdown content will be rendered as an HTML content using React Markdown component, which we bring in from the React Markdown library. This helps us enable the GitHub flavored Markdown, and Rehide plugin helps us to enable raw HTML Markdown. So like that is what we are going to have for the blog.jsx file. Let's now save this file also, and in the app.jsx file, let's bring in this component too. So let's import it. And then down over here, we bring in the route for our blog. And as for now, we do not have the private route element set. We are just going to remove this. And then when we save the file, you can see over here this div, which do not render any component because we do not have markdown files yet. So we are going to create the markdown files right now. So inside the source directory, you have this blogs folder, which is empty. Here we are going to bring in 4 markdown files. So I will just copy paste the markdown files because these are not different. We have this title, description, tags, prerequisite, and basically the content for our markdown. And of course we have the error over here because we have to configure the weight according to this also. Open this and head over to the weight.config.js file. So like as usual, in this file we will first start by importing the define config from weight, which is going to be a helper function to define the configuration. Then we bring in the React and also plugin from weight plugin markdown. This is a plugin to process the markdown files. Then we have markdown IT from markdown-it. This is a markdown parser. And at last we have this highlight.js for syntax highlighting. Next, we are going to create an instance for our markdown IT with options like HTML, Linkify, and Typographer. HTML will enable the HTML tags in source. Linkify will auto-convert the URL like text to links, and Typographer will enable typographic replacements. Then we are going to have the custom highlight function. It is going to use the highlight.js library to highlight the code blocks if the language is recognized. And it falls back to escaping the HTML if the language is not recognized or if any error occurs. Then we have this weight configuration. We use the define config to export this configuration. We have the plugins array, which is going to include React, Markdown plugin with the options such as mode HTML. Basically, this specifies the mode for the Markdown plugin. And then we have configured our Markdown IT instance for Markdown processing. So like basically this is the setup which is going to allow the weight to handle React components and Markdown files with the syntax highlighted code blocks. So let's now save this file. And when we refresh, okay, it refreshes already. And then over here we have this block component. But this does not look good as for now. So for it, what we are going to do is we are going to open the app.css file, and over here we are going to bring some custom styles for our blogs. At the top of the file, we start off by importing a theme from highlight.js, and we are using Tokyo-night-dark theme. And then down over here we have some CSS for a markdown. We style the markdown body with the font family this, line height, padding, and then down over here we have specific stylings for markdown. So we style the markdown body first, then the h1 heading, then the rest of the heading, then we style the paragraph tag, and then the code block. It should have a background color of something dark which matches our background. Okay, and then we have the syntax highlight for code blocks, and then additional styles for list, block quotes, links, etc. And at last we even have a style for image. And now when we save the file, you're going to see the changes applied over here. You can see the style applied for the image, for the link, for the block codes, and then when we scroll down over here for the code block, here you will see this highlighted code. So now that our blog page is ready, now we are going to create our theme section. Okay, so in the theme.jsx file, we start off by importing the necessary assets or images that we need for our team members. Then we define an array called people, which is going to contain objects for each team member. Each object is going to include the team member's name, role and their image URL. And now the main part of this file is the team function. This team function is going to return the JSX that is going to render the team section on our page. So over here we start off with an heading that says our dedicated team. Then we have a paragraph tag over here, and below the header we use a grid layout to display each team member, and each team member will be shown with their respective image, name and role. And that is what we are going to have for our team.jsx file. And let's now save this file and head over to our team section over here. And once we have created the team.jsx file, we are going to import it into this file. So just like this, below the blog, let's import our team component, and then down over here let's create a new route for our team component. Okay, and then let's save this file, and we should have our dedicated team page in the team URL. Now we want to change the title for our website. Okay, so for it what we have to do is we have to visit this index.html file and change the title of it to Few Learns. You can name it whatever that you want. Okay, and you can even provide the logo over here, and here now it is wheat icon over here, right? And we will replace it with our own icon just like this, and our icon is present into the assets folder, and this is logo.png. Okay, and let's now save the file. Okay, perfect. Now we will look at how we handle user authentication. So basically we will create our registration form and login form. So this, our registration file, is going to manage the user registration. In this file we start off by importing React and necessary hooks like useState for state management and useNavigate from React Router DOM for navigation. Then we create our register component, and inside it we initialize state variables for username, password and email. We are also using useNavigate to handle navigation after the successful registration is done. Then we create the handle register function, which is going to trigger when the registration form is submitted. So basically over here we send a post request to our server with the user's credentials and email so that they can be stored into our database, and if the registration for the user was successful, we will send an alert to the user and we will call the onLogin function so that it can navigate them to the login form. But if they are not registered or some kind of error occur, we are going to show them an error which says error registering user. And after the handle registration function, we render our register form component. We have different labels for username, email and password, okay, over here. And at last we have a register button which has a type of submit, and that is what we are going to have for the register form. So let's save this and import this component into this file. At the top of the file let's call in the register component, and then below down over here let's add a route for the register component. We are calling this register component and we are passing the handle login function as a prop to it so that the register component can call it when the user successfully registers and logs in. Okay, and then when we save this file, we are going to have our registration form ready over here. And now we are going to work with our login form. Our login.jsx file is going to manage the user login process. And in this file, we start off by importing necessary modules such as React, and we also import useState, useContext for accessing authentication context, and useNavigate for navigation. And then we define the login component where we initialize state variables for the username and password. We also access the login function from the auth context and set up navigation with useNavigate. Then we are going to create our handle login function. This is going to be an asynchronous function which is going to be triggered when the login form is submitted. This is going to send a post request to our server which is present at port 3000 with all of the user's credentials. And if the login is successful, we are going to store the received tokens in local storage and then call the login function to update the auth context. We also then navigate users to the blogs page. But if the login fails, we show an alert with the error message. And then down over here, we also create a refresh token function which is going to handle the token refreshing. It checks if there's an refresh token in local storage and sends a request to refresh the access token if needed. And we create one more function, that is make authenticated request, for making API requests that require authentication. This function is going to add the token to the request headers, and it also handles token refresh if the token is expired. And down over here into the return statement, we create our login form with a heading h2 which says login, and then we have different labels for different fields such as for username, for password, and then down over here we have the button which has a type of submit. And this is all of the code for the login.jsx file. Let's now save this file and we will import this into this file. Okay, so at the top of the file below this register component import, we are going to import our login form just like this, and we are going to create a route for login, and there we have a route for our login form too. So let's now save this file and open this hamburger menu over here, and let's head over to the login page, and there we have our form ready with username, password and the login button. Okay, now we will work with our private route component which is going to handle the protected routes in our app. The private route component is going to be responsible for protecting certain routes in our application. So basically this private route will help us ensure that only the authenticated user can access the blog page. So in this file, as usual, we start off by importing React and hooks such as useEffect, useState, useRef, and we also import navigate from React Router DOM for redirection. Then we will create our private route component. Inside it, we are going to initialize a state variable redirect to manage the redirection, and we have useRef variable alert shown to track whether an alert has been displayed. And then we retrieve the token from local storage to check if the user is authenticated. And then we use the useEffect hook to check if the token is missing and if the alert hasn't been shown yet. And if these conditions are met, we are going to display an alert to the user and set the redirect state to true. And this alert shown ref is going to ensure that the alert is shown only once, preventing repeated notification. And if the redirect state is true, we are going to redirect the user to the register page. And then we render the element prop allowing access to the protected content. So that is what we are going to have for the private route file. Okay, and let's now save this file and import it into the app file. So at the top, import the private route component, and down over here change the route for blogs to the private route, and we are also going to do same for a particular blog page. Okay, and that is it. Let's save this file. Okay, and now we will work on with our course component. These courses have a lot of files that we need to cover, so let's keep going. So this course.jsx file will be responsible for rendering a list of available courses that we have on our website, and it is going to handle user selection, and also it will manage the payment process. First thing first, we start by importing React, necessary hooks and images for our courses. We then define an array of products. Each is going to represent a course with an ID, name, price, and image URL. Then we will declare our course component, and inside it we are going to use useState to manage the selected items. And we will also use useEffect to load and save selected items from or to local storage. Next, we will create the handle payment function, which is going to handle the payment process. It first checks if token exists, and then it tries to create the checkout session. But if the token is expired, it is going to attempt to refresh it, and then it is going to retry the payment process. And if the payment succeeds, we are going to redirect the user to the payment URL. But if there's an issue with the token or payment, it is going to handle the error according to it. But if the user have already purchased that particular course before, we are going to show them an alert saying you have already purchased course with ID or IDs. And then down over here, we have the handle change function that is going to update the list of selected course based on the user's input from checkbox. It is either going to add or remove the items from the selected item state. And then finally, we have the return statement inside which we have the heading 1, a paragraph, and we map through the course array showing different courses that we have. We have image URL for the specific course, that course name and course details, and then we have the button for course details. So when the user clicks on the course detail button, we are going to navigate them to that particular course detail page, and then we list the course price beside the course name, and at last we have the checkbox so that the user can select the course that they want, and then we have proceed to payment button. So when the user click on it, we are going to navigate them to the Stripe payment gateway. So like that is what we are going to have for this particular file. Let's now save this file and import this component into app.jsx file. So import it at the top just like this, and below this login component we are going to bring in our course component, and let's now save this file, and here we have our course page. Okay, now we will work with our course detail page. So let's open this. This course detail page will help us display the detailed information about a specific course, and at start we import React and useparams. We are going to use useparam hook from React router to get the course ID from the URL. Then down over here we define a static course details data object which is going to contain the information about each course. Then we create our course detail component which is going to retrieve the course ID from the URL using useparams hook, and then it is going to look up for that corresponding course detail in the course details object. But if no course details are found for that ID, the component is going to render a loading message. But if the course details are present, our component is going to be rendered. We are going to show them the course name, syllabus, instructor's bio, and prerequisite for the course. So like over here we have different heading and paragraphs for different fields such as syllabus, instructor, and prerequisites. And at last we export the course detail page. Okay, so that is what we will have for this file. Let's save this and import it into the app file. So below the courses component, let's bring in our courses details component and create a new route for the course detail component with that specific ID. And let's now save the file. And now when we try refreshing it and go to the course detail page, this is going to show us the course detail. Now we are going to work with My Courses page, which is going to display the courses a user have purchased. Okay, so for it we are going to leverage React hooks and Axios to manage the state and fetch the data from the server. First we import React, useState, useEffect, and other necessary modules. We also import images for course thumbnails. Then we create My Course component inside which we initialize the two state variables. One is courses and another one is error. And we also use the useNavigate hook for navigation. Next up, we define an asynchronous function refresh token, which is going to refresh the user's authentication token if it is needed. Then we have another function that is fetch purchased courses. This is going to fetch the list of purchased courses from our server. And if a 403 error occurs indicating that the token might be expired, we are going to try to refresh the token and retry the request. We are also going to create the remove duplicate function, which is going to ensure that there are no duplicate courses in the list. So this is the remove duplicate function that we are talking about. And then in our use effect hook, we call in the fetch purchase courses component when the component mounts. But if there's any error fetching the courses, we are going to display it to the user. Otherwise, if there is no error, we are just going to render our component out there. Then we map our course name to the respective images using the image map object. And our every course is going to be displayed with its image and name. When a course title is clicked, the handle course click function is going to navigate the user to that particular course player page. And at last, into the return statement, we have our my course component. We start with the heading your purchased courses. Then we have a paragraph over here. Then we use the grid layout to display the courses. Okay, so yes, that is what we have for my courses page. Okay, and let's now save the file, and do not forget to import this component into app file. So at the top, import your course component, and then down over here create the route for it. Okay, and this is also going to be the private route, and that is it. Now we are going to work with the course content page. So this, our course content component, is going to display the detailed content for a specific course. Okay, this is going to fetch the content from the server and display it into our main page. Alright, so in this file we start off by bringing in the React and Axios. Then we create our course component which is going to accept match as a prop, which we are going to use to get the course ID from the URL. Inside the component, we are going to define a state variable course to store the fetched course data. We then use the use effect hook to call the fetch course content function when the component mounts or when the course ID changes. This fetch course content is going to make an Axios GET request to fetch the course content from the server using the course ID from the URL, and the request is also going to include an authorization header with the user's token. And if the request is successful, we store the course data into the course state variable, but if there's any error, we log it to the console. And while the course data is being fetched, we are going to display a loading message, and once the data we have got, we are going to render the course name, description, and a video player with the course video Vimeo URL. Alright, and like that is it what we have for course content component. Let's save the file, and do not forget to import it into app file. So below the my course component, let's bring in our course content component, and then down over here we are going to create a route for course content. Now the last file that we have to work on with is course player. This course player file is going to fetch and display the detailed course content including our Vimeo videos. Okay, so in the course player file, first thing first, we import React, useState, useEffect, Axios, and useParams from React router. Then we create our course player component, and the course player component is going to use the course ID parameter from the URL to fetch the specific course detail. We also use useState to manage the state for the video ID, course details, or for any potential errors. And then we are going to have a useEffect hook which is going to trigger a function when the component mounts or when the course ID changes. This function, fetch course detail, is going to make an Axios GET request to fetch the course data. And if the request is successful, we are going to update the state with the video ID and course details. But if there's any error, we are going to set an error message and log the error to the console. And then in the return statement, we are going to conditionally render the course detail. So like if there is any error, we are going to display an error message. But if the video ID is available, we are going to embed a Vimeo player using an iframe. And if not, we are going to show a message that is going to say loading video. Then we display the course detail, and inside it, we are going to have the name for the course, description for it, what is going to be the syllabus and instructor's bio, Then we are going to have the testimonials, okay? And yes, this is what we are going to have for the course player component. Let's import it here. Import below the course content over here, and then let's create a new route for the course player, just like this, okay? And then let's save the file. And now that we are done with creating our courses components, now we will be working with our success and cancel components. So this success component will display a success message after the user have purchased a course. We are going to use React hooks and Axios for handling the post-purchase process, okay? So in this success file, we first off start off by bringing in the React and necessary hooks, including useEffect, useNavigate for navigation, and we are going to use useLocation for accessing URL query parameters. And then we will create this success component within which we will use the useEffect hook. Over here, we are parsing the URL query parameter to extract the session ID and the course ID. And if these values are present, we are going to call the store purchase function. The store purchase function is going to send a post request to our server to store the purchase details. And in it, we include the course IDs and the user's token in the request. And if the request is successful, we are going to log the response data. But if there's any error, we are going to catch it and then log it. Then we will declare the handle go to courses function, which will be triggered when the user will click the go to course button. It will help users to navigate to their purchased courses. And then inside the return statement, we are going to bring in our JSX. So in here, we start off by bringing in the H1 element, okay? Then we have a paragraph. Then we bring in the iframe, which is going to show a Jiffy. Then at last, we are going to have a button which says go to your courses. And on click, it will call the handle go to courses function. Okay, and that is what we will have for this file. So let's now save this file, and in the app.jsx file, we are going to import it. So at the top below the course player, just bring in the success component, and then here we are going to create a new route for our success component, just like this. And now when we save the file, you will be able to see your success component ready over here. Okay, so now that we are done with creating the success component, let's create our cancel component. So now in the cancel component, we are going to display a message for the user when they cancel their purchase. Okay, first thing first, we start off by importing the React and link component from React Router DOM for navigation purpose. Okay, then we will create our cancel component and we will export it also. And inside this component, we bring in our return statement, inside which we are going to have a div with a heading 1 which says no purchase yet, and with a paragraph you just unlock the cancel route. And then we are going to have this iframe which is going to show a Jiffy. Then we are going to have a link tag which is going to take the user to our courses page if they wish to purchase the courses again. And yes, that is what we are going to have for the cancel page. And one thing I noticed over here is that this is not the background we have decided for all of the pages. So we will correct this right now. And then let's replace this with our correct background, okay? And now let's save this cancel file. And once it is done, let's bring in our cancel component over here. So just like this, below the success component, let's bring in our cancel component and just copy and paste this down over here and replace this success with cancel. Okay, and let's now save the file. And there we have our cancel component. But this button does not look good, right? So let's enter its text. So over here, let's add this style, okay? And then let's save the file, and yes, it is there. So yes, that is what we are going to have for the cancel component. Perfect. And now after that we are done with creating the front end part of this full stack project, I just went ahead to check the files that I have recorded till now. And I'm not going to lie, I just realized that this video itself is going to be lengthy. So that is why I have decided to split the video into two parts. This part is all about the front end, and in the next part I am going to cover up our server creation and even the database, okay? And I have also provided the link for the next part in the top right corner. And now I hope you enjoyed this video and found it useful. If you did, then please do not forget to like and subscribe. Also, if you have any doubts, please drop them into the comment section below. I will be happy to help. You can find the link for this project's GitHub repository in the description, and I have also provided this video's documentation on my website, which is vue.dev. You can head over there and check out for the things you need to copy and paste, like installing the dependencies and other things, okay? So I'm going to see you in the next video. Till then, bye bye and take care.